The Newberry Mountains were formed 2 million years ago when a ball of molten lava pushed up through the thin place in the Earth's crust. The lava has long since cooled off into the white granite peaks that give the mountains their unique appearance. I remember when I first saw those white gleaming peaks. We were on our way to Laughlin, going east on Highway 163. The experience was startling. We came up out of a low spot in the road, and as we reached the high spot, the mountain suddenly burst into view. I have a passion for photography and made a promise to myself to get back to this area as soon as possible, and that is what I did. The series of photographs in this show are the result of my many photo journeys into this geological wonderland. While exploring the area, I came upon a sign that read, Christmas Tree Pass. The pass turned out to be a wide dirt road that led into the heart of the mountains. About 200 feet from the turnoff are two signs that let you know what you will find as you proceed up the road. The pass makes it possible to get up close, so you can explore all the caves and canyons, rocks, plants, and geological oddities. Let's take a look at some of the plants I found in the canyon. This is the creosote bush, possibly the longest living plant in the world. Papago Indians used the plant as a drugstore that provided medications for everything from stiff limbs to snake bites. At the right time of the year, you can capture the delicate and beautiful blooms of the creosote plant. The cholla, prickly pear, ocotillo, and many other desert plants also produce brilliant and beautiful flowers. This is the yucca plant, commonly called the Spanish dagger. The Indians used the spear-like leaves to make rope, sandals, and floor mats. The roots were used for making soap and shampoo. The seed of the yucca are not edible, but they do make an interesting photo. The yucca is pollinated exclusively by one kind of moth that plants its eggs in the seed. When you come across something unusual, such as this seed pod, you will want to break out the books to determine what plant it came from. I think that this seed pod comes from the screw bean mesquite bush. These pink plants are mistletoe. They are a parasite plant that lives off other plants. I found the way the mistletoe roots sliced into other plants to be alien-like. The Latin name for the barrel cactus is feral cactus, which means fierce or wild cactus, probably because of its strong and hooked spines. The Indians used to scoop out the pulp and use the shell as an oven. This is the cholla cactus. Don't get too close, because its needles can penetrate through shoes. And to make it more troublesome, it is barbed on both ends. A little bit of imagination can give a cholla cactus an out-of-this-world look. Could this be a relative of E.T.? Lend him your cell phone so he can call home. I started up the Christmas Tree Pass, wondering what new and unexpected photos ops lay ahead. I was surprised when I saw this pile of rocks, and found out that for the most part they were white on the inside and dark brown on the outside. I later found out that most rocks in the desert are covered with what is called desert varnish. The varnish is formed by water interaction with the minerals in the rock. The real surprise for me was just ahead. I came upon a sign that pointed west and read Grapevine Canyon. About 100 yards up the road I found a small, but obviously well-used parking lot. I packed up my gear and began hiking up the dirt path that led into the canyon. The hike to the canyon was about 2 city blocks. And there they were, hundreds, if not thousands, of images chiseled onto the rocks. The Indians made use of the desert varnish to leave their graphics that we now call petroglyphs. To create their artwork, they used one stone as a chisel and used another as a hammer to chip through the varnish to expose the white rock underneath. No one has been able to determine what the Indian graphics mean. They could be religious messages to their god, maps to hunting grounds, warning of dangers, or just plain ordinary graffiti. Another geologic oddity in this area is the numerous rock formations that look like stone fences. I found out later that they weren't fences, but that they were dikes. The dikes formed when molten lava flowed into the cracks in the earth created by the ancient lava upheaval. Over time, the dikes have worn down in some interesting shapes, such as this desert lion. Now for me, this is where the fun of computer graphics begin. I have never had any formal training in art or photography, and what I have done here is a result of trial and error. I use Photoshop as my primary graphic program. I feel that I have mastered fewer than half of the tools that are available, but I get a lot of satisfaction from each time that I master any of the features. I love feeling godlike when I can turn night into day, move mountains, put people in places where they have never been, colorize pictures that are dull and uninteresting, and to create something that I feel good about. I've often been asked if I found this couple driving their Model T Ford in the desert, or did I put them there? As I said before, this is part of the fun of digital photography. Cutting images out of pictures and making them look part of another picture takes practice and patience. Special effects can make ordinary pictures look very interesting. In this picture, I melted the mountains with a command called liquefy. I broke up the straight lines with the use of the selection tool, which gives the pictures a more natural look. It is very seldom that you find the right cloud formation when you are shooting in the field. To overcome this problem, I have collected a portfolio of cloud shots. I always carry my camera with me so that when I see a spectacular or unusual cloud scene, I can capture it. Some shots are hard to pass up. This picture of the Stone Lady was one of them. It calls to mind the biblical wife who was turned into a pillar of salt when she looked back at the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is Spirit Mountain, the highest point in the Newberry Mountains. The Indians believed that the peak was occupied by their gods. Today there is a path by which modern explorers can hike to the top for a fascinating view of the mountains. The following two pictures were taken in the afternoon on a bright sunny day. I asked myself, what can I do to make the pictures more interesting? The choices are unlimited. The two treatments that I did here are an example of what can be done. The dissolved transition adds a nice touch. Nighttime in the desert is a world all its own. Not only do the many nocturnal animals come out to feed, but the cactus, the rocks, and the plants seem to come alive. When there is a full moon, the desert becomes a silver wonderland with all of its shadows and highlights. Photoshop and many other image programs have applications that make it fairly easy to turn noon to midnight. Oh, don't forget to add the stars. Just like most photo slideshows, I'll end this show with a couple sunset shots I took while visiting the Mohave Desert and the Newberry Mountains. And thank you for taking time out to watch my presentation. Have a nice day.
I go out walking after midnight.